Let's get started with our bead kit. So in your bead kit, you'll find some kidney hook earrings. You'll see the cabs prepped on a stiffened felt piece, as well as a beading needle, a little beeswax berry to help condition your thread, as well as the thread itself, Nymo in size B, some backing material, and of course some beads. You'll receive 3 colors, these 2 cuts here, or delicas, some seed beads in metallic and in a color of some sort. Your kit might not look exactly like mine. Chances are it's in a different color, but this is the same makeup in every kit. To get started, you're going to grab about 3 feet of thread, or almost a meter. Then you'll thread your needle. I find the easiest is to hold my thread in my non-dominant hand, put my fingernail really close to the end, and then with my dominant hand, guide the needle onto the thread. I find this to be the easiest. And you can see my thread split, not a big deal, just make sure to grab the end that made it through and it'll sort itself out. Now to do a quick knot, I'm going to wrap one end of the thread around my needle about 5 times. Then I'm going to take all that thread collected, pinch it, and pull it down to the end of my thread, and boom, you get a quick little knot. It's really, really easy. Then we're going to condition our thread with some beeswax. So hold your needle right next to the berry and pull your thread through, holding it down with your finger. Then pull your finger across the thread one more time to make sure it's all good. Now we're going to start by putting our needle anywhere right next to our center, like so. And then I'm going to start with the 2 cut beads. You'll see they're more cylinder shaped than round. And I'm going to put 6 on my needle to get started. This is the best for beginners, especially these 2 cut beads are a little more complicated than regular seed beads. So now I'm going to take my thread and wrap it around my center to follow the shape like so. Push my beads to the end, and then I'm going to stab my needle a little bit past the last bead, like half a bead length, like just a millimeter or so, to give it a little extra space for when we tack. Now I'm going to tack between every single bead. When it comes to these 2 cut beads, they really need a little extra attention. I usually only tack every 2 beads, but these ones, in order for them to sit flat and really look nice, you'll have to tack every one. Just like so, I'm working my way back to the beginning where we first started, carefully pulling my thread in between. And a good trick that I find helps is when I put my needle up and I'm pulling the thread through, I pull it down so you can see the thread is going between the 2 beads already. Because these aren't round seed beads, sometimes the thread doesn't fall between perfectly, so doing this does help. Once you've mastered these 2 cut beads, beading with regular seed beads is going to be a lot easier. Once I've tacked down all the beads, then I'm just going to go through my section somewhere in the middle or all the way from the beginning to then join our next section. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So I'm going in the middle like so, and then through the last couple beads. So that way we seamlessly are able to start the next section. So again, we'll grab 6 beads and then we will tack down the section and then go back and tack between each of the beads. So again, I'm holding it, pushing the beads over and then tacking with a little bit of space at the end. This allows it so when we tack, the room taken up by the thread between the beads will actually add to the total length. So you need that little bit of space in order for it to work. That's really the trick to single needle beading, is that you leave that gap. Now just keep repeating this all the way around until we have finished our first row. Quick tip, you can take some scissors and trim around the corners to make them rounded, and this will stop your thread from getting caught if you're having trouble with that. Now we finished our first row and this is how it's looking. We're going to start our next one. This is what the back of the beadwork looks like so far. Don't worry if yours is messier, that is totally okay. Now we are going to go up again and right next to our first row to start our next row. So now I'm going to grab a different color of beads. I'm going to take the seed beads and we're going to do the same. I'm going to work with 6 beads at a time and then tack the section and then tack between the beads. Now you can continue tacking every single bead, or you can tack every other bead, every 2 beads if you would like. See how it works for you, and just whatever method is working best for you, keep doing that. Everyone beads a little bit differently, so you don't have to follow what I say exactly. These are just my best practices that I find work for me. And I just wanted to show you what it looks like when I connect at the end. You can see that I make sure it lays really nice and flat. Don't try and stuff too many beads in there. Another tip is to go over your beads with your finger and just rub them a little bit. This is going to help them kind of shift around and lay nice and comfortably next to each other. Keep repeating the process until you're happy with your project. And then to finish off, I'm going to put my needle into the felt a little bit and then tie a knot like so. And this is my finished earring. I kept it simple. Feel free to do more and play with different patterns and whatever you want, but I wanted to keep it simple for the tutorial. And then now I'm just trimming off all the excess felt using my scissors, carefully cutting and then flipping it upside down to trim it a little bit closer, making sure I don't trim any of the threads from doing the stitching. And here's how it looks. There's still a little bit of white felt on the sides, but that is okay. It's still gonna look great. And then you can just get rid of that excess felt. Now taking the backing material, I'm going to line up my earring. I'm just going to use a pencil, trace around it, and then trim it out. Once you cut it, you can line it up, make sure that it matches, and do any extra trimming as needed. Then you can use glue if you have some. This is Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel. You can use really any super glue, E6000, or you can just hold it like I am going to show you right here. And then I'm going to go between the 2 layers with my needle and thread, with a knot, of course. And then I'm just going to use my needle to push down the knot to make sure it's not poking out. Now we can get started. I'm going to grab 3 beads. Pick any ones you want. I'm going to start with the seed beads. I wouldn't recommend using the 2 cuts for your edging personally. Like so. And then I'm going to go right next to my first stitch and then put my needle up through the last bead and pull like so. Now we can repeat the process 2 beads at a time. This time I'm going to use a metallic bead and my other bead to vary up the pattern. And again, go up through the second bead to create our picot edge like so. Now I'm going to grab the faceted beads that you'll find in your kit as well, and I'm going to incorporate these into the edge. So I'm going to grab one of these and then 1 seed bead, and then I'm going to push the bead down to the base so we can measure out where I need to stitch. And I just try to hold it in place roughly and then stitch right below like that. Perfect. And then go up through the seed bead. And that is how we use the larger stones. Beautiful. Now I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to vary up my pattern by doing the gold every once in a while and then the faceted beads. You'll see the pattern come alive here in a moment. Now you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And then finally, once we get to the end and we find that there is a little bit of a gap like so, that our big bead won't fit, now I am going to do the little loop that we can hang our kidney hook on. So I'm going to grab just 1 bead this time and go right next to our last bead like so, and up through the bead. And then I can finally connect back to where we were. To maintain the pattern, I'm going to connect using 1 gold bead, like so. And that way it kind of brings it all together. Now again, don't worry if your edging is perfect. It doesn't have to be. You can always touch it up later. Now I'm just going to go through both layers to kind of sort this bead out. As you can see, it's kind of sitting more towards the front. So I'm going to stitch it from the back to kind of put it right into place, like so. And then I'm going to weave my way back to those 2 empty beads kind of there, like so. And then I'm going to go down through the seed bead and then up through the one next to it, like so. Now we're going to add a little loop of beads. So I'm going to grab 4 beads and then go down through the other bead on the left, like so. And you'll see it creates kind of a little stack. And then I'm just going to go through from front to back, like so, to kind of anchor it, and then go up through the beads again to really make sure it's secure. Like that, and then down, and another anchoring stitch. Now we can tie off. I put my needle underneath the stitch. I try not to go through the felt or the backing. Wrap my thread around my needle a couple times and pull to create a knot. And then I just like to put my needle up through the beads like so and pull to make that knot disappear under the beads. And then you can trim off the excess. And boom, all your beading is done. All we have to do is pop our kidney hook on. Just pop it open like so. And then I'm going to put it on with the hook part first, just because it's a little bit easier. Like so. And boom, we have some beautiful earrings ready to wear. Ta-da! They're so cute. I kept it simple and tiny, and I just love how it turned out. Here's the finished product. I hope you like this tutorial. Please ask me any questions in the comments. I'll answer all of them to help you out.